$1,247. That is the exact number staring back at you from your phone screen at 11:43 p.m. You check it again a minute later, as if 44s are luckier than 43s. The number stays frozen. You owe $31,200 in federal student loans, $4,150 on a credit card, and Friday's paycheck is already swallowed by rent. You stand in line at the grocery store on Tuesday, calculating every item in your cart before reaching the cashier. You put the $8 olive oil back on the shelf and pick up the generic canola bottle for $3. This is what ground zero feels like. Not a dramatic collapse, just a quiet, persistent arithmetic running in your head. You move $150 into your savings account on Monday and transfer it back to checking by Thursday morning. Money at this level is not a tool or a luxury. Money is oxygen, and you are constantly testing the tank. Then you get a raise. Not a life-changing sum, just $5,500 a year before the tax man takes his cut. It feels like absolute freedom for about 6 hours, until the alternator on your 2012 sedan dies in a parking lot. You learn your first real rule here. Expenses instinctively expand to occupy every square inch of space you give them. You pay off your smallest store card balance of $1,100 and screenshot the screen showing $0 owed. You don't send the screenshot to anyone, because no one in your circle would understand why that zero matters. By age 26, your main savings balance crosses $10,000 for the first time in your entire life. You open a brokerage account on a Sunday afternoon and stare at the green deposit button for 2 weeks straight. You finally invest $1,500 into a total market index fund, and the entire market drops 3% the next morning. You almost hit the sell button out of pure panic, but you close the laptop and take a walk instead. That walk is where you decide that your long-term strategy will govern your choices, rather than temporary fear. You are 30 now, earning $72,000 a year, with $45,000 sitting across your retirement and emergency funds. You open a spreadsheet at midnight to project your future savings out over the next 35 years. The math shows you will end up with a respectable $1.8 million by age 65 if you stay disciplined. It is safe, predictable, and totally adequate. But looking at that final line makes something tighten in your chest. You realize salary is a ceiling disguised as a comfortable floor. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You launch a small consulting project on weekends. It makes $350 in month 1, then $1,200 in month 4. You do not upgrade your car, you eat the same food, and you reinvest every dollar back into tools and software. Your net worth hits $120,000, and you notice the first real gap between your salary and your total net growth. Your investments return $4,200 in a single year without requiring a single hour of your physical labor. You finally understand what an asset feels like. A machine you built that works even when you are asleep. At 33, your net worth reaches $210,000 across a rental property, index funds, and cash reserves. You decline an invitation to a $3,000 destination wedding in Cabo because liquidating capital feels foolish now. Saying no creates awkward friction with old friends who still view money as something meant to be spent immediately. You stop spending money to maintain social appearances and start hoarding capital to buy back your personal time. At $350,000, one individual stock position drops $12,000 in a single turbulent market week. You do not panic or liquidate because you accept that volatility is simply the entry fee for higher returns. Under $500,000, you work hard to buy assets. Above it, Your assets begin purchasing other assets. At 36, you restructure your business operations, sell a minority stake, and roll the capital forward. Your overall net worth touches $950,000. You sleep less now, driven by focus rather than financial stress. On a random rainy Tuesday afternoon, you log into your main portal and the net worth figure reads $1,080,000. You sit quietly in your chair expecting a wave of euphoria, but all you feel is a calm, grounded reality. $1 million at a conservative 4% withdrawal rate is $40,000 a year, which is safety, not luxury. You realize reaching the milestone was never the final goal. It was simply proof that your framework works. You stop attending noisy networking mixers where people hand out business cards and talk about hustle. Your conversations move into smaller rooms with fewer people who discuss capital allocation rather than income. At $2.5 million, money completely ceases to be a source of daily tension and becomes a pure strategic resource. You fire a traditional wealth manager who charges a 1% fee for generic index fund advice you already master. Your business generates $3.8 million in annual revenue, supported by a competent team of 9 full-time employees. You take a 3-week trip to Japan and turn off your work phone entirely for 5 consecutive days. True wealth is not the expensive items you accumulate. It is the list of things you no longer have to do. At $5 million, your primary job shifts from building operations to executing precise capital placement. You enter a private deal expecting $700,000 in returns, balanced by an uncorrelated venture position. You observe investors sitting at $20 million and $50 million to study how they think about multi-decade horizon risk. You stop discussing money with old acquaintances because your definition of a standard position sounds absurd to them. To an average household, $400,000 is life-changing capital. To your current fund structure, it is an entry ticket. At $12 million, family offices managing hundreds of millions invite you to co-invest in major infrastructure deals. You sit at the table not because of social status, but because your pattern recognition brings immediate value. Your personal reputation is now a financial instrument that yields returns independent of your direct labor. A company you own shares in restructures its workforce of 120 people to restore operating margins. You do not call the executive team to complain because you understand the mechanical necessity of the decision. The distance between high-level capital decisions and their human consequences widens quietly and permanently. At $32 million, you establish a family trust and a private foundation that donates $750,000 annually. The machine you constructed now runs seamlessly, whether you are in the office or traveling abroad for months. At $80 million, social isolation is no longer about loneliness. It is about living in a completely unique context. Your closest peers are people operating at similar altitudes simply because your daily problems require rare context. You think in 20-year demographic and energy cycles rather than fiscal quarters or annual budgets. You attend a private board meeting with 6 people who collectively control regional economic infrastructure. You speak for 3 minutes, pose 2 structural questions, and the entire capital allocation strategy shifts. Meanwhile, across town right now, a 23-year-old opens his mobile banking app in a dimly lit apartment. His balance reads $1,247. He stands in line at the grocery store, doing mental math over coffee and canned goods. He believes this journey is strictly about money, unaware of the personal transformations required along the way. The compounding engine opens every morning without prejudice, rewarding consistency, patience, and emotional discipline. The starting balance is $1,247. It always begins right there.